Many of us have been racking our brains trying to decipher the meaning behind these three words,
Ancient Keyblade Legacy,
and their relevance to the future of the series. We know at least the 4 people associated with this phrase, and of those 4, we at least know how 2 of them most likely fit into it, those 2 being of course Marluxia and Loxine, who we understand are originally from the age of fairy tales. However, when it comes to the other 2, Demyx and Luxord, there's a lot more mystery surrounding the pair, especially Demyx because we have nothing solid to really go off, and whilst we believe Luxord may have ties to unreality, it's not clear how that would even relate to an ancient Keyblade legacy if it in fact does. Now I still don't have much answers for any of that, but I have made some observations about the dialogue from this scene that have given me a whole new perspective on the significance of the ancient Keyblade legacy.
So, what about you? How do you suppose I chose numbers 9 through 12?
Because our hearts are uber powerful.
Wrong. You have been brought together for another purpose. You 4 are going to reveal your greatest secret. The ancient Keyblade legacy that slumbers within you. Huh?
So you've seen this scene before, and as I've already mentioned, we've all taken notice of Xehanort mentioning this enigmatic Keyblade legacy that slumbers within these 4. However, there's some parts of what he says that I want to pay particularly closer attention to. Firstly, Xehanort asked them how they think he selected them to be part of the organization, and he explains it's because they have been brought together for the purpose of revealing their greatest secret, their ancient Keyblade legacy. But what his words are implying become very peculiar when you actually look at the context within which he's saying it. If Xehanort is saying he specifically picked them for the purpose of them revealing this legacy, then not only does that mean he knows about it of course, but it also means that it is in some ways, based on what he's saying here, part of his plans. But here's what's funny about this. All of these 4 were part of the original organization. Marluxia and Loxine were antagonists in literally the 2nd game ever released in the series. So if what Xehanort is saying here is accurate, that would mean that all since back then he knew about this legacy, and he's had plans for it to be revealed at some point. But that point wasn't Kingdom Hearts 2, and curiously, it seems it wasn't Kingdom Hearts 3 either. Now this is very odd, because if Kingdom Hearts 3 is the game where the final showdown with the organization would play out, then wouldn't this be the game where Xehanort would finally unleash this great secret? Considering it was in Kingdom Hearts 3 where this was even revealed about these 4, you would think this scene is foreshadowing something that would happen in the final battle, but...
You were born for these sorts of games.
Are you kidding?
So now it all comes back to me.
Demyx time!
It didn't. At no point during the endgame did any of these 4 do or say anything that revealed this great secret, and yet, according to Xehanort, the only reason they're even in the organization is for the purpose of revealing that great secret. So when exactly are they supposed to reveal it? I would think if this was meant to be something that will turn the tides in the final battle, they'd have summoned Keyblades or called forth some secret power or something, but that never happened. We know for certain Marluxia once held a Keyblade, and yet we never saw it in the final battle, which, let's be real, with all the other reveals, returns and twists that were playing out, having him whip out his Keyblade would have only added to the hype, and yet he didn't. And even when they're defeated and going to be recompleted, they still didn't come out and say, oh, I remember my old ancient Keyblade related life. Nope, still no reveal. We're all talking about the legacy itself, but we're missing the part that preceded that. Xehanort is literally saying it's going to be revealed, but more importantly, that it's the purpose he brought them together for, which again would imply this is all part of his plans for some reason. But they lost. We literally watched them all lose in Kingdom Hearts 3, and we know they didn't reveal a damn thing, and that's why we're all still pulling our hair out trying to figure out what this legacy even is. Also, the use of the word reveal is interesting in itself. I mean, reveal to who? I highly doubt Xehanort is breaking the 4th wall here and referring to us, and that wouldn't make much sense anyway because Marluxia and Loxine were revealed in Union Cross before Kingdom Hearts 3 even dropped. So the only real surprises here was the fact Xehanort also knew about those 2 and that Demyx and Luxord were somehow involved too. This led to many people seeing this scene as outright confirmation that Demyx and Luxord would appear in Union Cross since the other 2 who are associated with this legacy appeared there, but they didn't. and yet, according to Xemnas, they have an ancient legacy and he wants them to reveal it. And of course, Xemnas isn't talking about them revealing it to us, he's talking about them revealing it to the world, to the other characters in the story. But there's one detail in particular here that's very, very odd. The very thing Xemnas is expecting them to do doesn't really make sense, because how would it be possible for them to reveal their Keyblade legacy if at this point they themselves don't even remember that legacy? The only way they can remember it is to be defeated and to become recompleted.
I am on the cusp of reclaiming my identity, my purpose for being.
Are you seeing where I'm going with this? If Xemnas really did bring these four together all from the very beginning just so they can reveal their legacy, then does that mean that he expected them to be defeated? Did he know the organization ultimately would lose, and that these four would still have a role to play beyond the Keyblade War? We as the audience know that they almost certainly will, but if that's true, then what exactly was his plan? How does them having a Keyblade legacy have any significance to Xemnas, Xehanort, or the organization if all of them were defeated before it was revealed? The only way this seems to make sense to me is if he expected them to be defeated and he meant for their reveal to come after that. But again, how the heck does that play into his plans if they've already lost? Had Xemnas simply miscalculated? I mean, it's possible. Like, did he know that some of the organization would betray him again? That Demyx, one of those that he claims he chose for this very reveal, would in fact switch sides?
It's a long story, but I'm sorta on your side.
I don't know. Something about that doesn't seem very likely to me, and yet, going off of his words, it's the only thing that really makes any sense. Of course, if it was his plan, then it was really Xehanort's plan. And does that mean that Xehanort really was expecting them to lose? I find that hard to believe given how unwilling he seemed to be to initially accept defeat, and he really went through all of this, made all of these moves, and yet expected to lose anyway? I don't know about all of that. Did he have some plan to forcibly trigger this reveal, to force this legacy to come forth? And once again, even if he did, what would be the significance of that? The only thing I'm willing to believe is that this reveal was part of a contingency plan in the event that they did lose. Personally, I've never been a big fan of the idea of Xehanort popping up again later on as an antagonist or really in any way, but I won't lie, I can easily see it happening in some sort of last ditch effort to redeem him, especially with us seeing his backstory in Dark Road. And regardless of whether I like it or not, if this scene is implying what I seem to think it's implying, then it really would line up with Xehanort's plans still crossing over into the Phase 2 storyline. These four aside though, there are two other people that we know are in the present day that are originally from the ancient Keyblade times, and that's Ventus and Subject X, who many of us believe to be Skuld. What's very interesting about that is that both of them have a history that connects with Xehanort's plans. Ventus was part of his plans to forge the Keyblade in Birth by Sleep, and as I've mentioned before in my video about him being the fated child, without Ventus travelling into the future from Daybreak Town, none of the events that followed in the series would have been possible, particularly the battle between the 7 and the 13. Then there's Subject X, who was being experimented on by apprentice Xehanort, with him trying to learn more about the ancient times. But it didn't end there. His plans for her still remained very relevant even in Kingdom Hearts 3.
I told you I did not take her. Her disappearance was why I put a stop to the research. If you do find the girl, what is it that you expect will happen?
The child's memory holds a mystery to unravel. One concerning the battle we seek between light and darkness.
The child's memory holds a mystery to unravel, one concerning the battle we seek between light and darkness. If we look at the secret reports, Apprentice Xehanort claims what he found of Subject X's memories evoked a bygone world like one out of fairy tales, which is almost certainly referring to the age of fairy tales. And if what Ansem is saying in this scene is also accurate, then those are the same memories that he seeks now, and according to him, they hold a mystery to unravel. But just like the reveal of the Keyblade legacy was not revealed by them, this mystery was not unraveled by them either, and Ansem was defeated before he could find Subject X. However, he claims that the mystery buried within her memories would be related to the battle between light and darkness. It's plausible to think that what Ansem seeks from Subject X's memories is also connected with whatever the plans are for the other four and their Keyblade legacies, and it seems fair to assume that it was indeed intended to be something that would give them the upper hand in the final battle. At least it seems the memories from Subject X were. But since that never happened, we've yet to see either of these things play into the present day story. Although, there is actually a third possible way of seeing all of this. Xehanort has memories from his previous life as the player, and in Dark Road he still addresses those people in his memories as his friends, and those friends from his memories are in fact the Union leaders, which of course includes Ventus, Laurium and Scold, and Elrena? I guess. Master Xehanort took an interest in Ventus, Xemnas took an interest in Marluxia and Larxene, and Ansem Seeker of Darkness took an interest in Subject X. So basically, almost all of Xehanort's versions have taken an interest in almost each of the people associated with the Keyblade legacy. Almost. Young Xehanort is the only version of Xehanort that has yet to do this, and Demyx and Luxord haven't been shown to have any history with Xehanort prior to the organization, yet he somehow knows that they have a Keyblade legacy. Now how could Xemnas have known this if based on what we know he's got no past history with them or with experimenting on them like he did with Subject X? Well, I guess since young Xehanort is the only version that's not been seen having a history with one of these people, I suppose that might be part of it, and hey, what do you know? There's an entire game about young Xehanort's backstory that's certain to reveal something about his past relationships that we've never seen yet. I just want to point out here as well that Demyx and Luxord may not necessarily be from ancient times themselves or even necessarily Keyblade wielders. All that's said is that it is an ancient legacy that slumbers within them, which would mean it could just be something they're descended from. Just like how Ericus is a blue blood and Xehanort says that he is descended from the very first masters in the Age of Fairy Tales, which if we go off of our assumptions, that may very well be Brain, who funnily enough we did see end up in some either old or alternative version of Scala. It's possible that Demyx and Luxord are in fact also blue bloods descended from the masters from that same Scala, or they themselves are in fact originally from that version of Scala. Now this doesn't mean that they can't later end up in unreality, as there's numerous ways that could occur, but if they are indeed from that time or descended from wielders from that time, it would certainly explain how despite the fact they didn't show up in Union Cross and don't seem to have any clear ties to anyone from that period, they are still said to have an ancient Keyblade legacy. Was all of this obsessing over that fairy tale age, all of this searching for those tied to ancient times, something as harmless as Xehanort just trying to reconnect with people from his past? Or something far more sinister? Honestly, I can't say, but what I can say is that whilst the Dark Seeker saga may be over and Xehanort may indeed be defeated, the battle between light and darkness certainly hasn't ended, and in fact, it appears that now it's just been kicked up a notch. There's no doubt that the ancient legacy and the memories of Subject X are going to play a crucial part in determining how things develop in that battle going forward. But what I'm left asking myself now is all of this still, somehow, all going according to Xehanort's plan? As if this whole Keyblade legacy thing wasn't complicated enough, here I go throwing all of this into the mix. This whole scene between these lot has always been one of my favourites in Kingdom Hearts anyway, but it was actually when I was watching Stickman Sham's Discord version of the scene that I got the idea for this video, funnily enough. So shout out to Stickman Sham, because I think something about Xemnas' push to speak mic in that video just gave me a new perspective to share on this. I don't know. I also don't know if the 20th anniversary has triggered my creativity or something, but I've suddenly had a rush of new ideas over the weekend, and this video here was one of them. But there will be others coming sooner than you might think. Until then, my name is NextGenNovelist, and that's all I've got to say, and I'm out. Peace.